Picture this. You're an average American male in 1848, minding your own business out west in the wilds of California. What do? Well, probably chop some wood. But then, something extraordinary happens. You hear that someone has discovered a massive gold deposit nearby. In fact, gold's so plentiful that anyone who comes to find it can take it. So what do? Well, pack up and head there immediately, obviously. After all, who wouldn't want to become rich enough to retire before they even have to retire? Well, it turns out that tens of thousands of people did exactly that, flooding into California and changing history. This is Crash Course Geography. Today we're going to find out what's the deal with the California Gold Rush. In 1848, James Marshall, an employee of John Sutter, was working at Sutter's mill in California when he discovered gold in the tail race of the mill, the channel where water flowed after it powered the millstone. Word got out, and by the next year, around 80,000 49ers, men who came in 1849, flooded into California. And these men came from all over, not just from the United States, but also from Mexico, China, Germany, and more. All heard the call of easy gold and came to California to try their luck. But this massive migration completely overwhelmed the existing population. In 1848, San Francisco was a small village of about 200 people. But by 1850, it had become a bustling boomtown of 36,000 people. That's about the same as if today's Houston, Texas grew to have a population of 1.5 million people in a single year. And like any major city, San Francisco had problems with such rapid growth, including not enough housing, rampant speculation and crime. The gold rush completely transformed California and its economy. Where once there were only a few thousand non-native people living in the region, now there were hundreds of thousands. San Francisco went from a village to a major city in a year, and would continue to grow significantly for decades. And because of the massive influx of people, California would go from a sparsely populated territory to being the most populous state in the Union by 1850. And those who did and find gold could still make a decent living, providing services to the miners. Of course, the massive influx of people also spurred California to statehood in 1850. In fact, the political battle over whether to admit California as a free state without slavery contributed to the Compromise of 1850, which diffused a major national crisis and delayed the coming Civil War for several years. And of course, there was the gold. While most miners never struck it rich, gold was discovered and mined in California and would contribute significantly to the U.S. economy. Between 1848 and 1880, the value of gold from California's mines was around $323 million, or about $8.5 billion in today's money. Of course, this glittering gamble wasn't all sunshine and roses. In fact, most miners worked long, grueling hours, often for low wages. They lived in tents in places with inadequate sanitation and with the constant threat of disease. The cost of goods and services skyrocketed. In San Francisco, the price of beef rose from 13 cents a pound to $1 a pound between 1848 and 1850, and it was unusual for miners to spend 16 hours a day at work. Most of them never made enough money to retire from mining. And tragically, California's Native Americans suffered dispossession and death at the hands of both the miners and the U.S. military. When the gold was discovered at Sutter's mill, most of the native people in the area were working for Sutter, and they suffered terribly under his management. And when the miners arrived, they brought disease and conflict. As one example of many, the U.S. Army massacred between 100 and 500 Native Americans at the largest village in California, and over time, most of California's indigenous people were forced to reservations. While it might be easy to remember the California Gold Rush as a romantic time of adventure and opportunity, it was really a dark period in U.S. history, marked by hard labor, displacement, and genocide. In fact, despite all the gold, the real riches went to those who owned the mines and the means of production, and those who provided goods and services to the miners. And while it's true that the gold rush forever changed California and the United States, for most miners, the dream of striking it rich was just that, a dream. Subscribe for more, share, like, and comments.